My Mother, The Person and the Patient is an original podcast written and hosted by me, Fortuna Kuso. This podcast is about my mother, Timiro Abdussamid Muhammad, Ayaya we call her, and that's the Somali word for grandmother, and her great-grandchildren call her Ayaya too, and that is their way of saying great-grandmother. Once I decided I was going to remodel and modify my house to meet my mother's needs, I decided to tackle the projects in pieces and do what I thought was the most important part to support my mother's mobility and then go from there, because I didn't have $100,000 to remodel the entire house, but I thought I could do it in pieces. So the first thing I thought about was I would remodel the bathroom to make it accessible for my mother. The house we live in has 3 bathrooms, one in the basement where the kids could use. It's a full bathroom, one in my bedroom, which I could use, and then the main bathroom in the house, which is the biggest bathroom. I thought I could remodel that. So I started getting contractors to come in and give me a quote for the work. I have $10,000 that I could spend remodeling that bathroom, and that should give me a fantastic bathroom. That's the mindset I'm coming in with. But all the contractors I called are giving me a price much higher than the $10,000. I can't afford to spend more than $10,000 on the bathroom. Also, as anybody that knows me knows, I like to get things on bargain. And my kids always tell me, especially my daughter who lives in Toronto, she always tells me that, Mom, there are things you should try and bargain and things you shouldn't really try to bargain. And remodeling the house, in her opinion, was not something I should have been. She said, Mom, even if you have to borrow, you might want to go with the contractor that you think is going to do the best project and go with them. But I thought, no, I found the handyman. And this was the deal I made with the handyman. He said he was going to charge me $25 an hour. He would come with me, tell me what I need. I would go to one of those construction big box stores, and then I'll buy everything I need, from the drywall to the tiles to the nails to the glue, the tape, everything I needed, the vanity, everything I needed. I would buy my material. He's going to do the building and installation for me, and he's going to charge me $25 an hour. I thought I got the deal of the century for myself, because I'm thinking, how many hours can really this project take? So if he was going to charge me $25 an hour, 10 hours would be $250, and 100 hours would be $2,500. So I was really happy, and I thought, if it cost me $2,500, even $3,000, and I could buy the material for less than $7,000 for sure. That's how I'm calculating. That's how I'm thinking about it. He started the project, and it only took him a week to rip the bathroom apart. Like, he was able to take the top out, remove the tiles, take the vanity out, because vanity was about 20 years old, clean the walls, everything done in one weekend. He took everything out. The debris went to the city dump, and that was great. But when it came to putting the bathroom back together, it took forever. That project went on and on and on. 6 months went by, and the bathroom was like he didn't do anything. It felt like there was no shower, no tiles put in. Only thing I had at the time after 6 months was the vapor barrier that goes below the tile in the bathroom. I didn't even have tiles in because he wasn't coming in. And if he came in, he would come in for an hour and two and do couple things, cut couple tiles here and there. And then the 2 hours will be done. After a few days, he will say, okay, you owe me 5 hours worth. You owe me 6 hours worth. You owe me 10 hours worth. And after 6 months, he just completely disappeared. I start calling each time within those 2 months that I call, he would say, my car broke down, my truck broke down. I wasn't feeling well. I had to work a second shift at work. I had to work this past Saturday at work. I was scheduled to do a weekend shift. So it was one thing after another. And then at the end, he told me, listen, lady, you are bothering me, calling me too much. You owe me 20 hours that I already worked that you didn't pay me. And I'm thinking, what did you use the 20 hours for? So he said, keep that $500, pay somebody else so they could finish it. And I told him, I paid you thousands already. I paid you most of your money. Nobody's going to come and finish this job for $500. But the problem was, I didn't have him sign a contract. I had no receipts that are showing what I paid him, saying that she paid me $500 here, whatever. It was just our words going back and forth. So I had really no recourse. There's nothing I could do. And after that, he stopped taking my calls. And I had to start looking for real contractors to fix the problem. And soon I found out contractors are not too keen in fixing somebody else's problem. I had to convince a contractor this was really a bathroom and tiles, no electricity, no water issue. At the end, it cost me $5,000 more than I budgeted for, and 10 months of trying to get that bathroom functioning. But at the end, I had a beautiful, accessible bathroom for my mother. In hiring that handyman, I really did not know what I was getting myself into. When you listen to how we arrived at my mother's diagnosis and what followed, it's so easy to see her just as the patient, to see her as nothing more than the disease that reduced her to shell of her old self. But I want to also to tell you about my mother, the person, the fierce woman that told her stories unapologetically, celebrating the beautiful parts and harsh realities equally. I want to share with you the stories she told us about her life as a girl growing up in a small village, the tales that marked her adulthood. I want to share with you all her losses and the ultimate winnings. The following chapter is one of those stories, reconstructed from my childhood memory. It took Timiro over a week to convince her father to accept the proposal. Initially, he didn't like the idea, and the more she insisted on it, the deeper his resistance grew. I don't know why you're doing this, her father said. Why? Her father shrunk further into the shame of needing his daughter to bail him out with every word he'd uttered. I won't allow it. I'm doing it for me, for all of us, Timiro lied. Farah is young and needs a mother. I tried, but I cannot fill in that void. Not for you and not for him. Timiro drew in a long breath. And don't I deserve a home of my own? I can't agree to send you that far away. Her father's voice cracked, and he sounded as if he would cry, not to you. But I want to go. You don't know what you're getting yourself into, her father said. That's called getting married, Timiro said at the time. What would your mother say? This was the first time her father had referred to her mother since the morning of the loss. She lost her say when she left us. Timiro's father's head jolted upright with a start. His eyes narrowed, almost closing. His brows moved closer together until they appeared as if the two were connected. The skin around his mouth twitched and tightened, leaving his lips to curl up. Tears spilled onto his cheeks. He took a deep breath, exhaled, and opened his eyes. Timiro, she didn't leave us. When he addressed her, his words were heavy. She died. He stopped for a long time. His silence filled the air around them with his unexpressed grief. We go when our time comes. Another pause here. No one among us chooses when they die. He wiped his face with the hem of his shawl. You understand that, don't you? At the time, Timiro only saw her mother's actions as desertion, and there was nothing anyone, even her father, could say to change her mind. Nothing. I have to marry this man for all of us. Timiro finally stated the real reason. She and her father went back and forth like that, one retort after another, neither changing their minds. The discussion seemed to bring her father's grief for the loss to come to the fore. All the tears he didn't shed when they lost the baby, and her mother gushed now. Perhaps he felt this was another loss, just the same as Timiro did. But she saw no point in dwelling on things she couldn't change. In the end, her father gave his consent and set the engagement and wedding date. Marian and Halima were right. The man who came for her hand in marriage was wealthy. Most accurate word for what transpired was an exchange. Her father received 10 camels, 15 cows, and 25 goats. In return, the man received Timiro's hand in marriage. News of the dowry amount moved through the village gossip channel so fast. Every mother stared at Timiro with envy and asked how she, who her mother had abandoned her, could have such luck. Some asked aloud as she passed by them near the water well. No girl in this village has brought such a large dowry, Marian stated proudly as she walked next to Timiro, collecting firewood a week before the engagement. A man willing to spend that much is worth every penny, Halima added. Both women knew Timiro only agreed to this marriage to help her father and brother, but that didn't stop them from gushing about her good fortune in landing such a man. They're here. Marian darted into the cooking shed as if chased by wild beasts. Halima followed right behind her, panting as she stopped before Timiro. A bright smile covered her flawless face. Perched on a gember, Timiro was in a red silk dirah, splashed with yellow thread that crawled from knee to neckline like the grapevines over the cowshed. Black slip under the dirah and red garbisar. Her small frame was lost in the ample woman's outfit they dressed her in. Sweat ran down from her head to the tailbone. Hot drops filled the backside of her underwear. Look! Halima pointed at the parade of men moving toward the front room where her father and the elder waited. Timiro had a clear view of the main house entrance and saw her future husband up close for the first time. The sight of the man walking, his tribal elders by his side, made her stomach rise. He appeared much older than he seemed when she saw him over the fence. His gait was uneven, and he walked with a limp, desperate for a cane. To compensate, he moved from side to side as if he were playing a game of hopscotch. This one needs a cane. That's what she thought, and that was her name for him from that point. For the first time since the beginning of this entire saga, Timiro understood what her father meant when he said, "You do not know what you're getting yourself into." Part of her wanted to run into the room and tell her father to stop the proceeding. She lifted her hand, pointing to the door, as if telling Nietzsche Kane to take his animals and find another girl up for sale by another family. But she took a deep breath, held it there for a desperate minute, and let it out long and loud. She closed her eyes and let the tears run down her cheeks. Her mother's absence inflicted the most incredible pain she'd ever experienced on her wedding day. Despite all the resentment that filled her when she thought about her, Timiro would have given the world and all that's in it to have her mother by her side. She would have stood tall, giving orders to everyone around her to do this or that for her. She would have stopped at nothing until she deemed Timiro most beautiful bride this village had ever seen. She remembered how she treated her like a princess at her womanhood celebration. She'd bubbled with excitement that day as she instructed the woman to do and redo Timiro's henna design 3 times to her satisfaction. Timiro's imagination of what her mother would have done at her wedding soared, and tears filled her eyes. Timiro missed her mother so much. As Marian and Halima hovered over her, her mother's absence loomed even larger, distorting any joy the woman tried to inject into the occasion. They moved about the room, smiles on their faces. They even brought their daughters Ambiya and Saadia, the friends she'd lost when she lost her mother and her brother, to act as bridesmaids. "What do you think about this?" Marian pointed at the henna design on Timiro's feet. "It's fine." The sight of the flowers drawn on her palms transformed into her mother's face, not as she was in the city, but as her happy days in the village when she laughed, sang, and played with her children. "What do you mean, fine? It must be fantastic," Halima said. "Your mother wouldn't have allowed anything short of beautiful." "I miss her so much." This was the first time Timiro ever shared her feeling aloud. This loss that followed her everywhere like a shadow. "I know, that's why we're filling in for her," Halima said. The fact that she didn't jump at the chance to highlight her mother's betrayal was a relief. "Thank you for doing that," Timiro said. "This is exciting." Marian handed Timiro one of the 2 outfits for the evening dance. "Which of these do you want to wear?" Timiro wanted to reward these women for their kindness, show her gratitude by smiling or picking one of the outfits with a bit of cheer. But it took a great deal of effort to even breathe, keep her eyes open, or put one foot in front of the other. "How about this?" Halima chose a cream-colored guntino with yellow lines running through the top and bottom half. "I like this one." Timiro forced a smile to cement her gratitude. Marian and Halima braided her hair in cornrows, inserting large yellow beads at the end of each braid before it looped around, ending in a bun at the top of her head. Plates of food and mugs of tea flowed intermittently toward the guests between dance sessions. Timiro watched the ceremony as if she was a bystander, a stranger that happened upon an event they weren't invited to. "Did you see that?" Nietzsche Kane's question startled Timiro back to reality, but she didn't respond to him, and he didn't seem to mind her silence. When the party came to an end, Timiro followed Nietzsche Kane to the room reserved for them for that night. Next morning, as Timiro prepared to leave with her new husband, her father and Farah came with them to the market. "This is goodbye, Abu," Timiro said and kissed Farah. Her father took her hand between his. "Timiro," he began, but that was it. He didn't say anything else. She waited close to a minute before speaking. "I'll send you a word when I get there," she said, even though she didn't know where there was. When she pulled her hand away, her father's remained suspended as she ran toward the waiting lorry. Right behind Nietzsche Kane She heard Farah wailing next to her father, standing in the middle of the village square, alone and lost. Timiro squeezed between Nitsa Kane to her left and an older woman to her right. She closed her eyes and imagined herself out of that decrepit truck filled with body odor from overflow of passengers and animal droppings. The truck stopped twice so they could get out, walk about, and eat something. The reprieve lasted for a few minutes. Soon they boarded back up. They were pushed into small spaces on top of each other like sardines. They covered miles and miles of fertile land without seeing any villagers, no homes, no farms, no cattle, not a single soul in sight. Odd-looking trees, shrubs, and weeds protruded from every inch of the brown earth. They passed by so much unused land, as if the vehicle was taking them to the end of the earth. Unfortunately, she couldn't shut out Farah's wailing. His shriek brought her back into the cramped space. His voice constantly reminded her of her unassailable reality, that she didn't know what she was getting herself into. He'll soon forget about her, she thought. He's getting a mother out of this deal. Still, the bone-chilling cry he'd emitted as she ran away from him played in her head. In a constant broken reel, is stuck in play mode. The sound made her nauseous. She had to swallow hard every few seconds to keep her rising stomach from reaching her throat. The old truck jostled them, moving between paved and dirt roads intermittently for hours until they arrived in a small town the following evening. "Don't forget your belongings," the driver shouted. "What?" Timiro asked. "We're getting off here?" She hated the place and everything and everyone in it before she set foot on its muddy red ground. It was not a village like she'd assumed. She escaped from the city that took her mother and brother to end up in another. Why would a man with so much livestock live in a city? "Yes, we're here." Nitsa Kane took her bags out of the truck and waited for her by the door. Everything in the place smelled horrid. The odor filled her insides with every breath she took, the smell between decomposing flesh and human waste. "Are we stopping by for the night?" The question carried her desperate hope for a positive response. She wanted him to say, "Yes, we're going to rest here tonight and get moving tomorrow so we can get to the village, so we can get home." He didn't. "No, we're home. Wait till you see it." Nitsa Kane spoke with the excitement of a boy. "I have a beautiful home here, one of the best in the entire city." "We're not that far." He led Timiro through a maze of tiny stone homes that darted between the market where the truck dropped them off and the place he called home. She followed Nitsa Kane, taking one dreadful step after another to her doom. People leaving the market for the night intercepted them on their walk and congratulated Nitsa Kane when he introduced her as his new wife. "Hey, Isa, you left single and came back married?" A man slapped him on the back of the shoulder. "That's the way of the champions." Nitsa Kane sounded proud. "That's fast for an old man like you," another man added. "Who are you calling old?" Nitsa Kane pushed the man playfully. All three erupted into a peal of loud laughter. They congratulated him and left. My Mother, the Person and the Patient can be found in all your podcast streaming apps, or head to my website, fortumakuso.com, to listen to the entire season. Please do not forget to listen, like, share, and follow. And join me next week as I share with you another episode of my mother's journey as both the person and the patient. Thank you.